I've been a professional artist for 10 years, a thumbnail artist for various YouTubers for 2, and I've made thousands of dollars on art commissions alone. My commissions fill up within days of opening slots, and nowadays I usually have a fairly long ping list of people waiting to commission a sprite or an asset from me. But I'll be the first to tell you, most of those 10 years were spent getting no commissions and no traction. And for the most part, it was my own fault. So I want to help you avoid the mistakes that I made with this video. We're not going over the usual advice of how to price your artwork either. You can find that information on any number of other videos. We're going in deep. This video was specifically requested by user PyriteDeFox, who commented on my previous YouTube video, "Heyo, you got any tips for trying to actually get commissions? I've got a portfolio, I've got a TOS, TOC, prices, all that stuff. But I just can't seem to get anyone to actually notice me as an artist. And I don't know where to advertise my art that someone will actually notice. You know any good places to post art or any tips for videos on YouTube that might get someone at least a little bit of traction? While I can recommend posting to Twitter and Instagram for getting your art recognized, we're going to be focusing more on those commissions today. Drop a subscribe and leave a comment if you'd like me to make a video on a topic of your choosing. The first piece of advice I have is to be consistent. Post art that will be seen regularly. That means using the correct tags, participating in current trends, and figuring out the best time for your audience to post. If you're in the UK and you want an audience of people in the UK, you shouldn't be posting your art at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. The more your content is seen, the more notoriety it builds in the minds of your audience. The more they recognize you, the more likely they'll be to choose you for an art commission. On that note, the second piece of advice I can offer is to post fan art for niche communities that you like. If it's a small community, like for a visual novel or an indie game, you'll find fellow fans who are more likely to support you sooner than anyone else. Just be careful, because people can be actually insane in small communities. I was in a niche game community years ago now, and I was informed that someone threatened and allegedly went to a con I was attending with the intent to stab and end my life because they didn't like the piece of art that I made them for a Secret Santa event. That might be the most egregious example, but I have 6 more bad experiences from that community that made me not want to touch it ever again. However, that community is still the one where I made the most money by selling acrylic keychains, pins, prints, and even still generate passive income through Redbubble and TeePublic because it's just that small, and they're lacking in practiced artists. It's a gamble, and you've got to decide if it's worth the risk, not only to maybe get death threats in the future, but if you want that specific community to be your main commission base for the foreseeable future. A slightly more broad piece of advice is to find unique services that only you can offer. Where I make most of my money is not big, beautiful illustrations, but rather art for on-stream redeems and YouTube thumbnails. Before that, it was in making custom role-playing sprites for various Tumblr communities. Play into your strengths. If you're great at Sonic or My Little Pony art styles, market yourself in fan spaces dedicated to those fandoms. If you can make great logos, market yourself to VTubers and corporations who need them. Don't limit yourself to the consumer base that you want, but instead extend it to anyone who might be interested in your niche. Now, I know I said I wouldn't offer advice on how much to charge, but I will say this: price yourself reasonably. You can't be a beginner with beginner quality art selling pieces for $50 a pop. I'm sorry, it's the truth. Some might say, oh, well, someone's willing to pay that price, then of course there's a market for it. One commission that's worth $50 in the span of 6 months, unfortunately, does not a market make. That is the #1 thing that prevented me from getting more commissions sooner. I thought too highly of myself, and my art just really was not worth the $30 per icon that I was charging back then. This is one of the hardest things to fix, because you don't want to overcharge, but you don't want to undersell yourself either. If you have a friend who will be brutally honest with you and it won't make issues in your relationship, consider asking how much they would pay for your art. If not, try multiplying the number of hours it takes you to make an art piece by 7. So if a piece took you 2 hours, you'd charge around $14 for it if you are just starting out. If you get loads of commissions as soon as you open them at that price, raise your prices next time you open your slots. And if you go through this route, make sure to have a limited number of commission slots available so that you don't get overwhelmed. The last thing you want is to build an early reputation for someone who can't fulfill the orders that they get. And my final piece of advice for this video is don't give up when you don't blow up overnight. 99% of the time, you will not go viral. Nothing you post will ever be picked up by the algorithm, and your art posts will not amass thousands of reposts overnight. It's just better to know that as a fact instead of hoping for the contrary. There are things you can do to increase the likelihood of eyes on your work. Like I said earlier in this video, posting when your desired community is online and using tags properly is great, but nothing is ever guaranteed. And especially on platforms like TikTok, where you'll get randomly shadow banned, that was a fun experience for me, you can't bank on anything that's worked in the past working in the future. It is always better to try and establish yourself as a valued member of whatever community you're in than trying to gain viral fame. If you do blow up, don't squander it. But trust me, it is not all it is cracked up to be. It puts so much stress on you to recreate that lightning in a bottle that you had the first time. And the community that builds around you is oftentimes a bit greedy of your time and your content. They followed you for the virality of that one instance, not for you or your content. A slow build is always better than viral success. Do you have any advice for getting lots of commissions? And is there anything that you'd like advice on? Leave a comment and you might get your very own video just like Pyrite. I actually opened a new vegan account with discounted prices for this channel that's separate from my main one. Everything's gonna be about 50% off for the next week, so if you want a piece of art, just hit me up. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I hope to see you in our next show. Ju-byebye!